What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerdz Enigma podcast powered by sportsnerds.com. And today, my guest is someone who is a former first team All Big East for WVU and NBA lottery pick, a three-time Israeli Cup champion, and somebody who absolutely burst onto the scene in Morgantown, Joe Alexander. Joe, what's up, man?
What's up, my brother? How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Life is good. Can't complain.
So I want to talk to you today. We'll kind of go in order through your career and talk you through Morgantown into the NBA and life after the NBA. But I wanted to first start about your life as a youngster and beyond, traveling around and learning a new language with your dad working for Nestle, and tell me, what kind of a toll that took on you and how that was beneficial to your life into the college years.
Well, I don't know in the grand scheme if it was beneficial, but it certainly shaped me. Growing up overseas from a basketball standpoint made things very different. I was basically a foreign player, almost like a European kind of player, in sort of a cultural sense. I think if I would have grown up in America, I definitely would have had a different style of play. I probably wouldn't have been very good, to be honest with you. So it helped me in that regard.
So I'll tell you a story. When you came to Morgantown, everybody knew, the Pittsnoggles and the Ganseys and all that. And my friend and I were at you remember the town center in Charleston?
Sure, yeah.
So my friends and I were over there, and the team was there, and I seen you, and I was like, "Who is the curly haired? Like, I don't know who this dude is." When you were a freshman, like I said, everybody knew the Pittsnoggle and the Gansey. I was like, "Who is this dude?" And you absolutely burst onto the scene in your sophomore year because you had an opportunity to start. But I just wanted to ask you, what was the chatter like after? Because you came after the Louisville collapse, right after they blew the lead with Louisville.
Mm-hmm,
you came in. So what was chatter like, during camp and during the practices when that first started up after losing to Louisville like they did?
I wasn't really plugged into it. I didn't have any kind of radar for it. I didn't even at the time know who Louisville was. Like I said, I grew up in China. I was so checked out of college basketball. So I had tunnel vision. I was worried about my own workouts and my own weightlifting, but I'm sure it was a big buzz, but it was lost on me. It was over my head.
So you had the opportunity to play for both John Beilein and Huggy Bear. So tell me, which one of them was tougher on you? That, in your opinion, which one do you think was tougher on you as a player?
Look, tough it's tough to define tough, but I think Huggins understood me more. He was much tougher, I guess, conventionally, but because he understood me, it was easier for me. I'll put it like this. He challenged me in ways that I could rise to meet. Whereas John Beilein, I don't think he understood that I wasn't ready from a cognitive standpoint to do the things he needed me to do. So even though he was softer with me and in a way babied me because he cared about me, it was tougher for me because I wasn't ready for that. I was new to basketball. I'd only played organized ball for a few years. So when he was asking me to think the game and understand reads, it didn't make any sense to me. Whereas when Bob Huggins told me, gain 20 pounds and run through people like a tank, I said, that I can do.
Right. So when did the whole dunking thing came about? Did you always know you could just absolutely jump out of the building, or was it something that you worked on your strengths and things when you got into high school to college?
Well, my brother John, who's 5 years older than me, bought strength shoes when I guess he was 15 and I was 10. And I used to hear him thumping around in the basement, jumping on them. And then he became an insane leaper. He's 6 feet tall. He used to be able to do 360s and all kinds of crazy dunks. He got pretty famous for it in China. And so I used to watch that being younger than him. And then I started to work on my jumping quite a bit. But I was short. I wasn't athletic. I was weak. He was super athletic. So I had to really work super hard to get my vertical up. And then miraculously, when I was like 17, I just hit a huge growth spurt. So my vertical combined with my length, and I became a great dunker. But I've been obsessed with dunking, even high and above my obsession with basketball. I've always felt that the only way to really express what I'm feeling inside and express my angst is to just throw it down as hard as you can. There's no replacement for that feeling.
And then that you always said that you wanted to, dunk angry too, right? That was always a goal of yours. Every dunk you wanted it to take some anger out on the rim.
I hated people who dunked soft, and I hated myself every time I got up there and threw it down too soft. I always wanted to feel like I ripped the rim off of the backboard. And when I used to work out and work on my vertical jump, I used to think of it. I used to say to myself, watch how I treat this rim. because I used to think I'm going to go abuse the rim. That was always my goal.
Who were some of the dunkers, before your time that you looked up to, that you sort of wanted to mimic, their game a little bit?
I think my brother. My brother was a pretty explosive and ferocious person, and so I think I kind of modeled him. I didn't watch any NBA growing up, so I didn't really have anybody on my radar for who I wanted to mimic. I just liked the feeling of jumping and dunking. There's a pain. It hurts when you hit your hand on the rim.
Right.
Sometimes you get bone bruises. It can hurt for days and weeks, and I liked it. So for me, it wasn't about emulating anybody else's style. It was about feeling a little bit.
So as a junior, you earned the first team All Big East. Was that something coming into that season that you had as an individual goal, or something that just happened?
It happened because of Eric Martin, who just got Coach of the Year at South Carolina State, and in my opinion, should be the next head coach at WVU. So he came in before my junior year and said to me, "Give me one good reason why you can't be Player of the Year in the nation." And I had just come off of an NIT season where I lost my starting spot to Deshaun Butler, and I was feeling really bad about myself. And Eric Martin said, "You're the best player in the country." So he didn't let a week or a day go by that he didn't remind me of that. And that's really when it started to get in my head that my time is now, because I had always thought my time is in the future. Like, I got 2, 3, 5 more years to develop. Maybe I'll go to Europe for a few years before I'm able to reach the NBA. But Eric Martin said, "You're ready. Like, you ain't got nothing else to do. You got all the tools, and your time is now." So that's kind of how my junior year turned into what it was.
And you were also named, I believe, in the tournament that year as one of the best players named by ESPN in the West region. So what did that mean to you as far as that region itself having a name like Kevin Love?
Again, not to sound like a broken record, I didn't know who Kevin was. I'd never heard of him before. I didn't even know about systems of rankings. I didn't know about regions. I didn't know anything about college.
You just wanted to play ball and win.
Even as a junior. And I couldn't have cared less about who he was or who he played for or anything like that. Even when we were in the tournament, I didn't know who he was. But I'm not saying that against Kevin. I'm talking about everybody. I didn't know anybody at the time.
Okay.
I think we had played UCLA before he got there, so I knew the players that were there. We had played them at my freshman year. Oh, my sophomore year as well. So I knew the players from our previous games with them. But as far as being ranked on the West, yeah, it was whatever to me.
So in 2008, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so you signed with an agent in 2008. Was that, was somebody in your ear with advice on go ahead and sign for an agent, or was it just something that you saw as a guarantee that, you didn't need to come back to college, that it was a guarantee that you were going to be an NBA lottery pick, or you just wanted to take a gamble?
Yeah. So my whole life, even though I didn't know anything about basketball in the NBA, I knew I wanted to play in the NBA. That was the only thing I ever thought about my whole life, all the time since I was 9 years old. And once I had the opportunity to go, I didn't think twice. I'm out. Bye. But at the time, I had so much trust in Bob Huggins that when he told me wait, I paused. And so then I started to waffle back and forth. Should I go or not? And I was on the phone every day with David Falk, Bob Huggins, Jerry West, BJ Armstrong, just everybody that I could. I mean, people were calling me all day long. So I was, going to be a first rounder, potential lottery pick. And everyone was telling me go back to school. So I was confused about the whole thing. I was like, why would I go back to school? It doesn't make any sense.
That's why I asked, for yourself, did you think it was a guarantee or sort of like a gamble that you were taking on yourself to go ahead and sign with an agent?
So I think I signed after I went to some workout. Wow, this is 17 years ago. I went to some workout where I was still projected in the late first round. And after the workout, I went up to lottery. And Jerry West called me after that. And he had previously been telling me go back to school. He called me after his workout and said, "Look, you're projected lottery. You got to go." So that was it.
So when you were drafted 8th overall by the Bucks and you walk up to shake David Stern's hand, did it kind of feel like, not that you had watched basketball as a kid, but your life was full circle and you had made it, and that's what you look forward to forever? So How was that feeling when you went up to shake his hand when you finally realized that that dream was, had actually came true?
There's a whole bunch of feelings mixed together. I remember that morning I played a song that I had always planned to play the day of my draft. And I felt like I felt so soft for doing that. I was like, oh, my dream has come true. Now I get to celebrate. Because most of my feelings were around being mad. I was really, really, really pissed off at the time that we lost to Xavier. I was pissed off that some of the guys in the draft wouldn't work out against me. I was really mad at a lot of the attention some of the guys were getting at the draft. OJ Mayo, Derek, Russ, and I think that came from Huggins and his staff. They had really shown me that I had worked hard enough to earn certain things, and I was good enough to earn certain things, and that I better feel nothing else every day except anger. And they kind of walked me through that process in a good way. And I was still in that mode on draft day. I didn't really care about the draft. I didn't care about David Stern or my suit or any of it. I just wanted to play. I wanted to get on the court and compete. And when I shook his hand, I think I was mostly mad.
Really?
Yeah.
So I went back and I watched some of the commercials that were made and some of the videos that were made as far as you trying to get in the dunk contest. So just tell me about that, how well you liked filming those, because some of them are pretty funny.
I think they're okay. They're pretty funny. Yeah. I didn't write them.
Especially one in the lunchroom when I forget who was in there with you.
Charlie Bell.
Is that who that was? I went back and I saw that one. I don't guess I saw them at the time, but I went back and I watched all those and I thought, they were pretty good too.
Yeah, they were a little bit before social media was big.
Right.
I think if it was now, they would have been a bigger deal. They were cool. They were written well. Charlie did a good job. My teammates helped me. My teammates were real encouraging, but it was embarrassing, to be honest, to look back, because I wasn't playing at the time. I wasn't playing well, and I should have just told them no.
So when Richard Jefferson left, was that going to free up, potential playing time for you when he went to San Antonio? And, just tell me about that time.
I mean, I had looked at it as that was going to be my spot. That's what I was gearing up for. And then I had a tremendous summer league that year. So the previous year, I'd been really disappointing in summer league. I think I averaged like 7 points. And I remember my GM calling me in his office. I could tell he was nervous. But the next summer, I averaged, I think, 18 and 8. And I was killing all summer, and I was excited. And Richard got traded. And even though I love Richard, but then I got injured pretty bad to start the season. And then I was supposed to come back before training camp, got injured again. So then I was basically going to miss the whole year. Yep, that's what happened there.
So that's what I was going to ask you. When you were in Hawks camp, and, I guess that was after the injury when you were at Atlanta Hawks camp. So what did the foreseeable future look like with the Atlanta Hawks before the lockout took place?
So really me and Ivan Johnson were the guys that I think they were kind of eyeballing. And I just mopped the floor with everybody at that camp. I mean, I just went in and murdered it. And they met with me afterwards and told them this is what we need. And they not begged me, but they told me don't go anywhere, wait the lockout out and hang out. Because we're looking for a guy like you. So, but my agent advised me to take the money and go overseas, and that's what I did.
So tell me, as far as the NBA goes, like some of the guys, I'm sure you've heard the question a million times. Some of the toughest guys you played against, some of the ones that talk the most. I have my idea of more than likely who talked the most, but in your opinion, who was the toughest and the guys who ran their mouth the most?
Everyone in the NBA is tough as nails. Like whenever I get into conversations about who's the most this or who's the most that, I like to, not in a disrespectful way, but just to remind people, probably the best athletes in the NBA are guys you never heard of or forgot about. And the fastest guys are the same, never heard of them or forgot about them. And same with toughness and a lot of the qualities that we like to sort of measure everybody up against. I think the top guys in the league, the Kobe's, the legends, all these guys, they're just a perfect mix and well-balanced of everything. But I don't know, the toughest guy I ever played against in the NBA. Well, ironically, I mean, Ivan Johnson is up there. That boy was tough. Jason Maxiell was pretty tough. when I think of who was tough, I think of just who you couldn't move. Like
Right.
when they get to a spot, like you're not
Mhm.
moving them, and if you do, they're going to come cheap shot you. I can't think of anyone right now, but there were a lot of tough guys. What
So
was your other
my guess for one, the ones that talk to the most would have to be Kevin Garnett. I'm sure he's up there on everybody's list.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. So KG talked nonstop.
Right.
Paul Pierce talked nonstop.
Mhm.
But a lot of guys did. Most guys in the NBA talk to themselves. KG too. He talks to himself the whole game, and then he might pull you into the conversation. But mostly
Right.
you're just kind of watching him talk to himself, and then he might mutter
Right.
your name, and you're like, "Leave me out of this. This is between you and your demons."
So did you have an aha moment when you were in the NBA, somebody that you might have played against where you were just like they had that glow around them, or you didn't look up to anyone that much to whether I don't want to say they were like a god, but just somebody that you couldn't believe that you were actually, about to go up against that you had watched or heard about?
I think I'll frame that in a way that most, I guess, fans don't think of it in, which is there were so many times in the NBA where I encountered players who were supposed to be mediocre that just blew my mind.
Right.
If I was playing one-on-one with some guys who are considered bums, and I realize this guy is a god, or if I was doing drills in the same situation or in the weight room, or a lot of times guys who have been hurt for a long time get healthy for a month in practice, and you realize this guy should be a Hall of Famer. This guy should be an all-star, and then they go back to being hurt. So those were the situations where guys blew my mind. When we talk about the big names and all the guys you expect, yeah, of course they blew our mind. You know what I'll mention is I think to this day, the guy who's the most underrated player for me is probably Michael Redd.
Mm-hmm.
Every team that you're on, you're with NBA guys, and then there's a tier of players on your team that are better than everybody. But then there's like one or two guys that don't belong in the NBA. They belong in like the double NBA.
Mm-hmm.
It's like NBA is like high school to them.
Right.
And I didn't know that Michael Redd was like that.
He was a starter when you got to Milwaukee, right? He was in the starting lineup.
He was a starter, and he was from another planet.
Right.
He was supposedly like a shooter.
You think he's also somebody that had the biggest impact on you too?
No, I don't think so. He was just the most shocking to me in terms of his talent level, his abilities on the court. I couldn't believe because I practice with him every day. I just couldn't believe like the skills that he has out of this world.
Did your preparation change much from when you went from college to the NBA? Because I know you go from college to NBA, you got a different staff and maybe more of a staff. But as far as individual preparation, how did it differ from college to NBA?
Yeah, so mine got much worse. When you go from the systems in college that sort of keep you in line to losing all of those and losing your support systems, you have to rebuild them very quickly. And I didn't, and I wasn't even aware that I needed to, which is a good testament to my college coaching staff. It shows how much they protected me and prepared me and helped me and took care of me. That once they were gone, I had taken them for granted, so my preparation got much worse later in my pro career as I hit year 5, year 8, year 10, year 15. Obviously I was, a well-oiled machine, but in my NBA years, unfortunately, I had no idea what I was doing.
How did preparation differ from NBA to overseas?
Well, in the NBA, sort of the way the league worked when I was there, mind you, this was 15 years ago, we didn't practice much, whereas overseas, we practice like colleges, we practice like dogs. So the preparation in the NBA was sort of left up to your own devices, your own, whatever it is that you need to get ready. That's what you got to do. Whereas overseas, the coaches want to micromanage everything from your weightlifting, your cardio, which stretches you do.
What are some things with today's NBA that you would like to see changed?
I haven't watched the NBA in 15 years. So
I got a couple more for you. One of them is I want you to tell the people what you have going on now. You know, how you're helping younger athletes reach the next level and how that's going for you.
Sure, man. Yeah. So, my big thing when I was a kid growing up in China was that I was in love with the process of learning how to make yourself better, because I was terrible at basketball. I had no college scholarships when I left high school. I was not a prospect at all. I was terrible. So what I was invested in was sort of the science of improving yourself, no matter what level you're at, getting to the next, getting to the next, getting to the next. And I always had this fantasy about sharing that with kids when I was older, after I'd made the NBA. So that's what I do now. So yeah, I try to, I'm embarked on a mission to try to, I want some kid out there 5 years from now to say, yeah, I made the NBA because of what Joe taught me. So,
What is something that you want people to know about you that they may not?
I'm a computer nerd.
Or that's what I was see. This is stuff I like, just stuff outside of you as an athlete or you at basketball, just something that people don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm barely a basketball player. I'm barely an athlete, even though I've invested like 50,000 hours in basketball, maybe 60, and it's my whole life. And I think I was really born to be a nerd.
Well, obviously, I feel the same way too. So.
Nice.
So I appreciate you coming on today. Like I said, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. I know you got things going on, but it means a lot to me. And that's why I wanted you also, give you the platform, let you know, for you to talk to people and tell them what's going on, tell them how you're helping younger athletes behind the scene. I'm sure they appreciate that. I appreciate what you do. And I obviously appreciate everything you did in Morgantown. I cover WVU when I can. And I know you, like I said, you absolutely burst onto the scene for me, seemingly out of nowhere in Morgantown. So, you always be that guy that WVU remembers, and I appreciate you for it, and we all do.
Josh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I mean, I see the WV on your chest, and just makes you feel good. I'll always have a soft spot for West Virginia, and I love every time I go back. So I appreciate you having me on very, very much. And
thank you so much.
Thanks for all the kind words too.
Thank you.